What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of The Jump Off. I am your host, KO the X Factor, and we are back here live in the lounge. I am sitting back on this beautiful Saturday morning. It's nice and chilly outside, and we are sitting here in the office. I got my dual screens up, got my recording equipment on. I'm just sitting back, relaxing, enjoying this beautiful Saturday morning. Got a lot going on here in the lounge. We got a busy day here. We got, Black Ops 4 is in the office. We got The World Ends With You here. So we got a lot of video to record. We got a lot of Let's Play videos to get to. The reviews are going to be going up this weekend, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We've got a lot going on. And it seems like right when we get a lot of stuff going on, we get hit with hurricanes. Now, I know before, you guys remember, we got hit with Hurricane Florence. It was actually a disaster for this area. And then just recently, as like 2 days ago, maybe even 3 now, what was it, Thursday? Yeah, so about 2 days ago, we got hit with another one. And this time we got hit with Hurricane Michael. Now, I will say Hurricane Michael was not near the devastation that Florence was for us here in the Carolinas. Florence kind of, it wrecked a lot of people here. Michael, it hurt some, but not near the toll that Florence had. But Michael did have more of an impact at Ground Zero, which is in Florida, and then those in Georgia. They suffered a lot more than we did. I mean, I've seen some shots of where Michael made landfall, and it just looked devastating. And I'm like, and I started looking at it, I was like, if this is going to be like one of the last hurricanes that hit this season, why'd you name it Michael? I mean, why'd it have to be named Michael? I mean, so close to, we're getting close to Halloween, and then you do it and then he makes landfall the weekend before the 13th, and you name him Michael. Why do that? That's just like trying to spell for disaster here. But our prayers and our thoughts and our sympathies are with all those affected by Hurricane Michael. Trust me, we know we've been through one already. We went through another tropical storm here, so we're still dealing with the after effects of Florence and now Michael. So our thoughts and prayers are with all of you affected. We hope everybody is safe, gets back on their feet very, very quickly if you were that affected by it. And anything we can do, we would love to help out in any way. We're always, donating to help the cause and help those victims of these tragic events. So we hope that you guys are too. And I will say, with midterm elections getting ready to happen as well, if you have not registered to vote, please go out and do so. Please register yourself up and please go and vote. That's just my little public service announcement before we begin. So now we can kind of push the election thing out of the way. But again, Hurricane Michael, big travesty, and we will do everything we possibly can to kind of help with the victims. But we got a couple things we want to talk about and get into today. One of which is, like I said, it is Call of Duty weekend. The big release, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, is here. We have played it. We have gotten into it. We got a review going live for it probably this evening, maybe tomorrow. I'm not going to set a concrete date yet, but it is coming within the next day or two. So I'm going to offer some thoughts and opinions on it, and then my main concern and my major thoughts and opinions on it is the incredible update process if you're one of the ones that got a physical copy of the game, and just how ridiculous it was. I mean, for us even to get this thing going in here in the office was kind of a pain. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the PlayStation 5, which has officially been, I won't say unveiled, because it hasn't been unveiled yet. But it was announced by Sony that, yes, they are working on the PlayStation 5. So we wanted to look at, now that Microsoft and Sony have already unveiled that they're working on their next generation consoles, when can we expect to see them, or when can we expect to get a kind of an announcement about them? And what this may spell for Nintendo. Is it going to change Nintendo's approach in any way? I mean, because we know they're working kind of like on a 2.0 of the Switch. So is this going to hurt Nintendo in any way? Change their direction? Change anything about what Nintendo's doing with the Switch? We're going to talk about that as well. But first thing I wanted to talk about is let's open up about Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Now, as I said in the review that you'll see later on this weekend, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about the game because I want you to check out the review for that. I've actually reviewed Call of Duty games for GamingTruth.com, which was another gaming website back in the day that me and a handful of other editors, we reviewed games, we played games a lot, and we talked about them. We did news stories, press events, stuff like that. And Call of Duty was always one of the ones that came up every single year. And Activision always entrusted me with a review of Call of Duty. I always got a copy of Call of Duty. It was always the one to end up reviewing Call of Duty. I was probably the most cynical and critical of Call of Duty, even during that time period. And I gotta say, I have been, and Activision knows, I have not been the most positive. But I still I went into Black Ops 4, actually kind of went into Black Ops 4 with not a whole lot of expectations. My expectations for the game were extremely low. I was not actually kind of looking forward to it at all. It wasn't even really on my radar, to be honest with you. And then when they announced that the game was going to have no solo campaign at all, it was going to be just strictly multiplayer, I actually kind of just chuckled. I was like, really? So this is now what you're going to plan to do. You plan to charge people $60 for a fully priced game? That is not a fully retail game. Now, with that said, let me be the first to say I was actually very pleasantly surprised by what I played. Content-wise, and actually gameplay-wise, I was actually thoroughly impressed. I was not expecting the level of content with what I received. Because what I ended up receiving was actually a boxed product of $60 value that actually kind of lived up to that value. Because many had asked me, even going in, like, look, you played Call of Duty. Does them yanking the single player campaign from the game deteriorate from the price of what they should be charging for this game? And my first response after playing this was, PUBG is now a fully released game on Xbox. Fully priced, fully released. What you're getting with Black Ops is actually a better version of PUBG and has a lot more content than PUBG. So don't worry, you're getting plenty of options to choose from here. So yes, it is actually worth the $60 price tag, which was honestly one of my major concerns going in to this game. I didn't think it was going to live up to the value. I didn't think there was no way they could charge $60 for this game based on what they were going to be offering and still taking single player away. And then I started thinking, excuse me, my voice is like really going away here. So I'm going to try to push through it. But this led me to think, how many actual really strong Call of Duty players, avid fans, played through the campaign of the Call of Duty games? Let me know. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, how many of you guys actually played through and sat through the campaigns of Call of Duty? Honestly, that was really the only thing I truly played was the campaign, so I didn't think, when I heard they were taking away, I was like, well, there goes my only reason for playing Call of Duty, because I didn't play much of the multiplayer because I didn't enjoy it. Not to say the community's not strong or anything like that. Me personally, I just didn't enjoy myself. And then some of the elements they added, with the double jumps and the wall running and jetpacks, it kind of like, I was like, nah, you know what? Nah, I'm good. I've had some similar experiences with games like these already, and I didn't enjoy myself then. And even the story modes were just so, with Call of Duty, except for World War II. I played World War II last year. I played the story mode for it. We actually streamed the entire campaign. I thought it was actually pretty enjoyable. I actually enjoyed it. I thought the campaign was good. But and a lot of our colleagues and a lot of our friends played through the multiplayer and still play the multiplayer up until the release of Black Ops 4. And they really enjoyed it, which, is cool. I mean, To me, I was always just kind of like, I just didn't enjoy myself with that franchise. It's just something about it. I just didn't enjoy myself. Never really was a huge Call of Duty fan. I was always a huge Battlefield fan. That might have been part of the reason why. But I go back to the question, how many of you guys actually played the campaign for Call of Duty? Like, actually sat down, played the campaign, and knew, I mean, because you know a Call of Duty campaign is going to be, what, 4 to 6 hours long? It's not going to be that long. How many of you guys played the campaign and that's all you did? Or you went into a Call of Duty game expecting the campaign and that's all you really were expecting from that game? So I'm sure a majority of you guys were actually okay with them just doing the multiplayer. You were fine with them taking the campaign away because it didn't really make that much of a difference to you. It didn't bother you at all. You didn't care, which is okay because a lot of Call of Duty players, the first thing they do is get the Call of Duty game, go home, install, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, and then jump right into the multiplayer. There was plenty of games that I've done that with. But I was always one of the ones that played the campaign, or a lot of games like that, I play the campaign first, then jump into multiplayer. But that's just me. But to answer some of the questions I've gotten about this game, is it worth the $60 value? Yes. Is it better than PUBG? Yes. It actually plays, I think, what PUBG should have played like from the very beginning. Now, PUBG is a optional third-person, first-person shooter like that, whereas a majority of the time in PUBG I play third-person, but with Call of Duty there's only the first-person view. At least that's all I've seen of it, is the first-person view, which is okay. I mean, I've grown accustomed to playing first-person shooters, so I kind of, I'm already, especially with a Call of Duty game, I'm kind of already expecting that. But it actually runs smooth. There's no hiccups. There's no strange bugs that are going to get people kicked out of matches. Now, I'm sure servers are overloaded on the night it comes out, but overall, the game actually runs really, really smooth. It seems fair. There's nothing out there that seems to throw people off. I will say some of the armor that I've seen some of these guys wear, I don't know what in the world they're made out of, but the fact that they can stop like 50 cal bullets or like 2 clips from like an SMG or something before the armor even breaks is a little bit kind of like, okay, they might need to look at that, make sure that's what they were intending, because there's been times I've emptied like 2 or 3 clips into somebody before their armor breaks. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I don't know if they have a level 1, 2, or 3 armor. But I've worn a level 2 armor and have been shot not feeling like it's been by 2 clips and had mine break. So I don't know, but it just seems like there's those minor tweaks. That and the driving mechanic. I'm hoping they tweak the driving mechanic just a little bit. But the fact that there are vehicles in there, I was actually pretty happy with. The other gripe I had with Call of Duty, and I'm sure everybody that bought a physical copy of Black Ops 4 knows exactly what I'm talking about. That install is ridiculous. Now, look, I understand the game's probably massive in scale. You're going to have a big install. Now, let me tell you what I had to end up doing, especially for those of us here. We had to install, because we got the PS4 and the Xbox versions. So we put the PS4 copy in, and here's what threw me, is the first update I saw for Black Ops 4 was 24 gigs. I was like, oh, that's not that bad. 24 gigs, that's not, 50 that they were claiming earlier. So it went through its download process. It installed the game, and then downloaded that 17 to 20 gig update. And then I was able to boot the game right up. And now, as soon as I booted the game up, the only version or the only game mode that was available was Blackout. The zombie mode and the multiplayer mode were still in a download mode. I was like, wait a second. The only update it showed me was that I had a 20 gig update file, which I installed and downloaded already. I then go back to my notifications and notice that there is another download happening while I'm in blackout mode. And that was a 50 gig install. I was like, what in the world? Seriously? Why? Why would you why do something like that? First of all, I've never been a fan of day one updates. Never have. That means your game wasn't finished by the time you shipped it. But I understand the idea of updates. But a 50 gig update, that means you were not near complete with the game when you decided to ship it off to retail. You said, okay, we're going to put out an update that's going to get these completed and these modes activated and live. So instead of, so you gave us the game, and then you put out this 50 gig update, dude. Is ridiculous. That's on top of the fact that there's 107 gig download for the game itself. So you essentially need to set aside 160 some odd gigs, maybe even 170 gigs, just for Black Ops 4. That is a lot. And if you're one of the gamers out there that has a system that only has a 500 gigabyte hard drive installed on it, that's a lot to ask. That's nearly a quarter of your hard drive space for one game. That's too much. That's way too much. And I don't know how we go about fixing that, but the fact that it took that much of download, we got the game here in the office about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I started installing all three. I had two Xbox One versions and a PlayStation 4 version. It was 11 p.m. before all three versions were done. We were able to start playing our first match at 11 p.m. that night. I think the Xbox One version, finished a little after 10 o'clock, so one of the guys got a chance to play it around 10:30, and the other one got a chance to play it about a quarter to 11, and then I started playing right at 11 o'clock. So essentially, your entire day is downloading that game and installing it. That's atrocious. That's taking away from the gameplay experience. And that's going to leave some gamers with a bad taste in their mouth. And I was one of them there for a while. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I cannot believe that it's still downloading updates for this freaking game. I wasn't happy. The fact that I had to sit there and wait that long. Now, I know it encourages players to download the games digitally and preload and pre-install. And a few of our guys did that, and they had no problems. So at midnight, they were able to jump right in. But those of us that got physical copies, we're screwed. We don't have that luxury. There is no luxury to download the install file. Now, I wish there was a way for them to fix that. Like maybe everybody can download the game, like the install version, like the 50 gig update or whatever, so that way whenever they get home, the only thing they have to install is just the disc content. That could probably help out a lot. But those of us that got the disc version, we had to start from pretty much scratch, 170 some odd gigs. That's atrocious. That's a lot. That's a lot to undertaking. So, overall, that was my first night experience with Black Ops 4. If you were one of the ones that got a hold of the game later in the afternoon, you probably didn't even get a chance to play last night because your game was installing and downloading, so you probably went to bed with that game still updating. And that takes a whole day from the essentially not even a launch day product anymore. You got to wait till the next day, which kind of sucks. But moving right along into our very, very next topic real quick, I'm going to touch on this kind of briefly, is that Sony has finally announced that they are working on the PlayStation 5. Now, they didn't call it the PlayStation 5. There's no code name for it as of yet. I think they might have one now. Maybe we'll try to look that up. But this is on the heels of Microsoft saying that they're working on their next generation console as well. And they codenamed that one Scarlet. And then Nintendo announced that they're kind of working on a 2.0 version of their Nintendo Switch that's going to launch sometime next year. So, just like the Xbox One, then they came out with the Slim, and then the PlayStation Slim. I mean, what are they going to do? Like a Switch Slim? I don't know. I don't know what they plan on doing. Maybe a Switch with a bigger hard drive. That could be very possible. But what is this going to spell for Nintendo next year? Or first of all, we should ask ourselves, when are we going to see an official announcement about these next generation consoles from these manufacturers? Could we possibly hear something at E3? Now, look, it's a possibility. I don't want to say no, but it is a possibility. The fact that they announced that they're already working on one and the code names are out there could leave us to believe that we could probably see some sort of a informal announcement about it at E3. It's possible. And the fact that developers are already working on games for it, I mean, Elder Scrolls, we all know that's going to be that generation console. I'm even believing that man, what's the name of that game? Shadows or something? The one that the Sucker Punch dudes are working on they showed at the PlayStation event. I believe that one's going to be a PS5 game. I don't think that's going to be a PS4. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's... They may release it on PS4, but it's going to be intended for PS5. I think they showed a lot of games. I think even maybe Last of Us 2, we're probably not going to see that until next generation also. I think that they just did not show, or they showed more games that are going to be released on those platforms than we think. Which I'm okay with. That means they got a pretty good lineup of games coming for that console early on, so I'm okay with that. But that could mean that we see announcements about these systems at E3, which again I'm okay with. So we may see some formal a formal announcement about them next summer, with probably, I'm guessing, a release date of probably 2020. I don't think there's going to be a release date next year. But the big question is, does this change Nintendo's plans at all, if they had any already about this? Because to me, the Nintendo Switch it's a good console. It's still fairly new. It's over a year old now, but it is still fairly new. There's still a lot of games coming out for it, a lot of good games. And a lot of gamers tend to really, really enjoy it. Now, I don't know if this is going to push Nintendo into start working on like a Switch 2, not the 2.0 version, not like a slim version of the Switch or something like that, but like a successor. I don't know if that's going to push them into development of that. I hope not. I hope not too soon, because to me the Switch is still a good system. I don't think it needs to be rushed into development with a successor right away. I mean, I'm sure they're probably already starting to get plans in place for one, but they don't need to rush development of it. Let Microsoft and Sony duel it out as they always do every single time they get ready to come to this point. Let them duel it out, and you just kind of stick to your guns the way you did with the Wii, maybe not so much the Wii U, and then the Switch, because the Switch and the Wii were successful. They still are. And the Switch is doing extremely well in the market. You don't want to change that up by coming out and saying, okay, you know what, we're working on another system as well, and we're going to plan on competing with the PlayStation 5 and the whatever the next Xbox console is going to be. You don't need to. There's no reason for you to compete in that market. One, you've proven over like the last 3 consoles that you've had that you can't compete in those markets. So I would continue doing what you're doing best. It's a lot of mobility. The fact that your consoles are all mobile, stick with those, because that seems to be a formula that works extremely well. It's done well, and I expect that the Switch is going to continue to do well as long as they have proper content for it. Excuse me. Now, I know Smash Brothers is probably going to move consoles for them. But now you got to start looking beyond Smash Brothers. Where's Metroid Prime 4? That's got to be like your next big game to come out after that. But we haven't seen much about that since the initial release or announcement about it a couple years ago or a year ago. We didn't see anything on it this year. They need to start pushing that a little bit more. Maybe their next Mario or Zelda game they need to start pushing on with. They need to keep the content coming and the games coming for that system for it to continue to thrive. And like I said, Smash Brothers is going to hold it over for a little bit, going into next year. But you got to start looking at next year and what you plan to do after Smash Brothers releases. Like I said, I know you got Metroid Prime coming. We need to start seeing info on that, when it's coming, and some gameplay on it. But I would love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions are. What do you think Nintendo's going to do, if it should do anything at all? I'm on the mindset that I don't think they need to do anything at all. Just continue playing their guns, continue doing what they do best. Let Microsoft and Sony continue to duel it out. Nintendo's already shown that they can dominate markets by just kind of thinking outside the box. Keep going with the Switch, or should they go on to a brand new system? I'm on the mindset that they should stick with the Switch and keep pushing that system forward. It's still a great system, and it's still fairly new. So I would love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Make sure you comment in the video description or on our website comments, or you can do it in the iOS comments or Google Play comments. But make sure you follow us on our website. We're at www.GameNightLounge.wordpress.com. You can follow our YouTube channel where all of our reviews, our podcasts, and our Let's Play videos are there on our YouTube channel. And our YouTube channel is The Game Night Lounge. Our Facebook page is The Game Night Lounge. Our Twitter handle is Game Night Lounge. Or my personal Twitter handle is at KODX Factor. You can also follow us on the iOS store, the Google Play, Podbean.com, TuneIn, and all the other podcast avenues that have our RSS feed on there. We greatly appreciate the support. So we thank you guys so much for listening. I am KODX Factor, and hopefully this, my voice going away will not affect our going into next week's show. But I want to thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much. Please let me know your comments and what you guys thought of the show. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And until next time, game on.